All right, welcome to my shop. My name's Sam. Come on in, I'll show you around. All right, so welcome to my shop. If you're new here, my name's Sam, and this is where I work. So this is a single car garage, well, what I'm calling a 1-car garage. I think technically before it was converted, it was a 2-car garage. My wife and I share an office in the back, which you'll see, and there's a little bit of a hallway situation that leads to the basement that's just really not super usable. So I can't take advantage of the full 2-car garage. So for all intents and purposes, let's just call this single car garage. It's a small space, I think that's the point, and you'll see what I'm able to accomplish in here with the right setup and the right tools. So that's what we want to talk about today. It's been a couple of years since I've done a shop tour. If you have been around for a while, you'll see a lot of things have changed. And there's one other thing I want to do. I've seen a lot of shop tours. I watched a lot of YouTube. A lot of big YouTubers get a lot of stuff given to them. I'm a small YouTuber, so I've not had the opportunity for sponsorships and things of that nature. So I actually want to tell you what I paid for everything today. It's not to brag, it's not to boast, it's just to show you this is what I paid. This is what this retails for today. So you can kind of be like, wow, this is within reach. It's just helpful information that sometimes I wish other YouTubers shared. I think we should start right here at the table saw. So this guy is the rigid R4512. This was the first tool I ever got for this shop. And in fact, I assembled it in our living room when Allie and I were redoing our house. This table saw has been nothing but incredible. I have abused this thing. This thing owes me absolutely nothing. And I only paid $500 for it. That was brand new in 2017 at Home Depot, shipped to my house. Of course, I had to put it together. But besides that, I use this thing almost every single day. This is what rips down all the material for my frames. Like I said, this thing owes me nothing and I could not be happier with it. It's the only piece of rigid I own besides a shop vac, and honestly, I should probably buy more of it because it's just really stood up. I want to say it's got a 30-inch rail, and I actually have a small router that I built into it. You do have to provide your own plywood for that end. It's easy enough to just drop a palm router in there. I don't do a ton of routing, so that thing's worked out awesome. I will say there's some upgrades you can get for this on Etsy, and all it does is stiffen up that fence. I guess that's the only thing I could complain a little bit about. The tolerance in the fence isn't like saw stop quality, but I didn't get this for saw stop price. So this thing retails today at $700. It's been a few years, inflation. I would buy this for $700 easy. So when stuff comes off the table saw, you've got to have an outfeed table. I've had a few iterations of an outfeed table, all of which I basically built from plywood and 2x4s. This is what I've settled on, and this is what I think works the best. This is 4x4, so it's 48 inches across, and it can actually extend out to 6 feet with this leaf that pops out. And I've got a thing that just kind of holds it up. The best part about this outfeed table is the Formica top. I will never, ever, ever have another outfeed table without a Formica top. Nothing sticks to this. I can glue stuff up. The glue pops right off. Paint pops off. I got varnish all over it last week. That came off, and it's just like indestructible. The other thing that's kind of cool about this thing is I have small parts storage drawer thing that kind of folds out. This thing I built when I was really just starting out, and I could honestly stand to redo it, but works for now. Most of that stuff's from Harbor Freight. I think this thing sits about an 1/8 inch below my table saw height, so basically nothing gets jammed up on here, but it just kind of floats right out onto here. So yeah, love this thing. I've been beating on this thing for a few years now, and the Formica has just stood the test of time. Really highly recommend that. Had to price this thing out today, probably be in the $200 range, and most of that is going to be that Formica top. I think I paid $100 for the whole sheet, which was more than I actually even used. $200 for a handful of 2x4s, some plywood, and the Formica. Solid. I'd buy it again. Easy. Popping back over to where we actually first came in, that's the front door. But this guy right here, if you have a planer and you buy one of these, you'll probably not use your planer. This is a Jet 2550, meaning the bed is 25 inches, and because it's open-ended, you know, you could effectively sand a 50-inch piece if you really wanted to. This is, we're getting to some of the bigger machines I paid for. I paid $2,300 for this, and I think it's I got it 2 years ago, and I think it still retails for around 2,300 bucks. Yeah, this is incredible. Like I said, I mean, I have a planer. It's just a small 13-inch benchtop planer, but I don't even touch it. After I got this, I'll throw some 60 grit sandpaper on it. I just buy it by the roll, and I could literally take like an 1/8 inch pass, and it doesn't slow it down. It's got incredible dust collection. And then when you're done with that, you can step up to like, I'll step it all the way up to 220 grit and just get a glass finish on stuff. I use this thing a ton. If you make cutting boards, if you make anything flat, this thing is indispensable. You need one of these. Maybe my favorite machine, I'm not kidding. I love this thing. Moving over here, just to the right of the drum sander, I've got like my little laser setup. All right, so I've got a laptop over here that runs the laser, my CNC machine, which you'll see in a little bit. Pretty cheap laptop, to be honest. This stuff doesn't take like a ton of brain power to use. Well, it does for me, and not so much for the computer. But yeah, this is an Ortor LaserMaster 3, the Chinese laser from Amazon. It was $700. It's a 10-watt laser. It's really good for branding stuff. So I use it to do most of my branding. If I want my logo on something, if I want a design etched into a piece of wood, this thing works great for it. I've seen people with big giant lasers that can cut right through 1/4 inch MDF or 1/2 inch plywood, stuff that's crazy. I don't do that. I'll brand a cutting board, I'll brand some coasters if I need to, or I will put some small detail into a shadow box. It's basically all I use this thing for. I'd highly recommend this. Like I said, it's 700 bucks on Amazon. I'm really pumped with it. I know a couple people that have them, and it does what it's supposed to do, and I really can't complain. Moving on from over there, this was like my pride and joy back when I built it, if I'm honest. I don't really use it that much anymore. You know what I do use is this CNC Enclosure. I really am happy with the way this came out, and I use it a ton. That said, the CNC machine inside of it, has that paid for itself? I don't think so. And that just comes down to me like not being a super proficient CNC person. Either way, that is an i2R8. Imagination to Reality was the company that built it. I think they just got bought last year. I mean, here's something crazy. I paid $4,000 for this, and I was so stoked. I like made a bunch of stuff to make the money to buy a CNC machine because they were the latest and greatest super cool woodworking tool at the time. And obviously, like, I'm psyched that I have it, but today they want 8,500 bucks for that same machine. Well, I'm sure there's some differences, but it's effectively a 4 foot by 2 foot, 3-axis CNC machine for 8,500 bucks. Would I buy this again? Not for that price tag. I think 4 foot by 2 foot bed for a CNC machine is perfect. You'll see this CNC enclosure kind of divides my shop into the each bay. This enclosure houses a ton of stuff for me, so I would definitely make this enclosure again. I just think I might use this as a bench top and maybe not have a CNC, to be totally honest. This guy is my most recent purchase. I am super stoked about it. This is the Festool Rotex 90, RT90, whatever they want to call it. Oh, right here, RO90, DXFE, Festool, come on, with your names. It's a 3.5 inch Rotex sander, that's what it is. And I bought it with this CT15, which is basically their cheapest dust extractor. If you know anything about Festool, you know how expensive this stuff is. The price tags on these guys are astronomical. In fact, I'll tell you exactly what it is. The sander, $525. The dust extractor, $420. That's almost like $1,000 for that little setup. I paid $750 off a guy in town for this a couple weeks ago because I had a big butcher block countertop project I had to sand. This thing is probably worth what they're asking for it. The dust collection on this is incredible. I barely wore my respirator. It's so much better than what I had. Would I pay close to $1,000 for that? Having used it, I think I probably would, to be honest. Yeah, super pumped about that. The guy even threw in a whole bunch of abrasives for me. So that kind of lives in there. I used to have an air filtration system in here, but that kind of crapped the bed. So now this thing lives under there. I underestimated how good having a nice sander would be. It really makes a huge difference. My miter saw station. So this is, you guys probably know, but This station is very specific to picture frame making, which is a lot of what I do. So this whole situation, this whole miter saw bed rail situation could be replaced with just big, what do you call a big, what the heck is that called? Where you like a miter stop, right? So at this end, I have a 10-inch Makita sliding compound miter saw, and I really just use this for straight cuts. I don't have a stop set up yet, but I need to because I've been doing more straight cuts than I originally was. I've been making some stuff other than picture frames, mostly house projects for Allie, but yeah, I really need to put a stop on this thing. On this side, we have my super fancy clear mount miter scale. This is Professional Frame Maker 101. This scale is basically the cheapest option for a dedicated picture frame making station, which I went with. They still make these. They're definitely getting more expensive. I paid about $1,000 for the scale with an extension so I could make it a little bit longer. I think the same scale today is $1,200. And you have the option to add just the straight Makita compound miter saw. This thing's great. This is super simple. It's awesome for just straight up and down cuts, whether they're at a miter or just straight on. This is basically the miter saw that this scale requires. If you get this, you kind of have to get this, but either way, super happy with that. I did upgrade the blade to something from Amana Tool. It's an AGE series 100 toother. I've never sharpened it and it makes perfect cuts every time. Super happy with that. And of course, this is on my miter station, which I did a huge build video. I think it's a two-parter. Most of my storage is in here. I'm not gonna go through everything that's in all these drawers today. That would take forever. But yeah, tons of storage. All these drawers are full, mostly small tools and mostly consumable products. Let's head around the corner, show you what I got cooking under there. In the corner over here by the miter station, I have my big Grizzly Band Saw. This is a 17-inch bandsaw. It's the decipher that G0513. It's the Extreme Series 17-inch bandsaw with a cast iron trunnion. What that is, I don't know, but I'm really happy with this machine. It's got a cool fence system where it's just got the regular old fence, but it's also got this extension. And I picked this one out because the majority of what I do with this is resawing. So I've got the 1-inch wood slicer on there. I've done a bunch of videos about this thing. It's 2 horsepower and it resaws basically any kind of wood I put through it. Maple, exotic wood, oak, pine, like literally anything. This thing does not care. I've never bogged it down. It is 220, but you know, if you're gonna have something this size, you kind of just have to deal with that. I remember I paid just over $1,700 for it, delivered to my house with a lift gate, and on sale today it's $1,885. So it's gone up a couple $100, but worth it totally. Would I buy it again? Absolutely yes. Moving around the corner, this thing right here does not get the attention it deserves, okay? This is a switch box that I made. This controls everything in my shop. The green is all the lights in here, so I can turn individual lights on and off. I can turn individual outlets on and off, and I can turn my dust collection on and off. Took a lot of heat because it's right next to the sink, but it is all GFI protected, and eventually, even though I said this in the last video, I will actually make a cover for this. I don't know, I just think this thing's wicked cool. It's super helpful and I use it every day. I don't know what I paid for it. I bet I paid like $200 with all the LEDs and switches and stuff like that, and I would definitely pay it again. And I'd probably pay more like $400 if somebody wanted to make one of these for me. Working our way around the corner. This is a cool project because this is, well, I call it my map cabinet. This is where I house all my thin material for shadow box creation. It's all basically organized by tone. So you've got your dark tones at the bottom, light tones up top. Another important piece is the mini fridge, but what's really cool about this is this was actually just a Costco shelving system that I turned into these drawers and cabinets, and all I really did was made doors and drawer fronts for it, and you can see the rest is just the metal shelving in the background. So you can pick one of these things up right now for $280 at Costco. Put whatever wood you want on it. This is all maple, so it's a little pricier. I think I've got about $450 into this entire build. Utilizes this space really well, and yeah, I use this thing a ton, obviously, because I make a lot of shadow boxes, and well, that's where all that stuff lives. Next to the map cabinet is pretty much, I think, my last tool of the tour. This is my scroll saw. This is, well, if you know this channel, you know I spend a lot of time at this scroll saw. This is the here we go. Pegas? P-E-G-A-S. It's a precision scroll saw. I believe it's made in Switzerland. I got this from Bearwood Supply. It's a 21-inch scroll saw. They have the patented, like, fancy blade situation here. This thing is rock solid. It really is precision. I've had no issues with this thing. I have more hours on this than I can even tell you. Yeah, I mean, this is the bread and butter of what I do and how I make money. So I spend a lot of time on this. As you can see, I have quite a few accessories that I've kind of doped this thing up with. So it fits my needs. I've got obviously lots of camera mounts and cameras, this aluminum cage that I built for it. So the scroll saw does kind of, I mean, it doesn't rattle, but it vibrates. And so in order to get a good, clean camera shot, you need an external support that's not attached to this so your camera doesn't shake. And that's why I have stuff kind of screwed to the map cabinet. And that's why I built this aluminum cage to house camera bodies and all kinds of different arms and stuff that you can hook GoPros to. Yeah, that's the secret sauce on how I get a nice steady shot on this thing. But the one thing that doesn't have that I wish it did was a light. Yeah, even my like little junky DeWalt had a light on it and this just doesn't. So what the heck, come on Pegas. But I got this little magnet light. I can turn this all on for you. This guy, yeah, it's an electromagnet and it sticks right to the side of the machine. And you can obviously turn it on and off, but that really helps with being able to see. And the other thing I did is I actually have a shop vac set up in the basement that attaches to this hose. So I can control the dust collection on this thing. A push of this button. So that's pretty slick. I didn't have dust collection on it for the longest time. Turns out you don't want to be breathing sawdust from exotic wood. Keep that in mind. Let's see, I bought this thing 3 years ago for 850 bucks. They want like 995 for it today. I don't know where, like, I got this from Bearwood Supplies in Canada, and those people are so squeaky, they won't, I think they even charged me an arm and a leg for shipping. Still order stuff from them. They're still not cheap, and they still won't give me a discount, but would I pay $1,000 for it? Yeah, use it every day, so I'd have to. Love this thing. The other things I hadn't mentioned or I didn't mention yet, this kind of just ties into, you know, what you would pay for a full production shop, like I said. So two things are really important, an impact driver and a drill. I have way too many hand tools and I've spent way too much money on Makita stuff to even mention. This Fuel 18-volt impact and drill set is about $359 today, and I probably paid something like that for it, but yeah. If you're gonna do any kind of production work, you've gotta have a good drill and you've gotta have an impact driver, and Makita's got a sweet warranty, so that's why I got that. The other thing I didn't mention is my dust collection system and the cage. So two things that I built when I built this shop, or when I converted this garage into what it is today, is I built a cage. It's one of my first videos I did, but it's basically just interior skeleton situation that I can bolt anything to. As you can see, like, a lot of my power comes down off the cage. All my dust collection is attached to the cage. I even have some wood storage attached to it, and it's super helpful, so you don't have to deal with trying to like mount stuff on sheetrock or find studs. They're all on the outside. Attached to that in the basement, which I'm not gonna show you because it's a disaster, is a Harbor Freight dust collector. That is my dust collection. I paid 169 bucks for it. It takes a little bit of assembly, but I believe it's 3/4 horsepower or 2 horsepower. I know it's 110. It's a beast, and it runs this 4-inch dust collection system flawlessly. Today it's like $299, but if you know anything about Harbor Freight, don't ever pay retail. Like, wait for the 20% off coupon, sign up for their silly club. It's worth it. I got all my clamps from Harbor Freight, and I got a ton of just random stuff that you'll find in my drawers from Harbor Freight. So sweet purchase there. So there's my CNC enclosure, and then this is our office. This is pretty inside baseball, but I just wanted to show you why I consider this a one-car garage. This thing I just built, this is pretty slick. This is all of our camera stuff. It was my first attempt at welding. Video to come, but pretty cool. So all in all, our grand totals, I have personally invested in just the stuff we talked about today, according to this sheet, $14,657. And if you're gonna buy all that stuff again today, it'd be around $20,763. Nothing was given to me. I paid for all of it, and I paid for all of it through what I do in this shop. So that said, if you want to be serious about having a production shop That is a very small number to get started, in my personal opinion. You could even consider this a hobby shop. So if you just wanted, enough stuff to start your hobby. I've bought all this stuff over the course of, I think, 8 years. Super reasonable, super doable. I just hope that's helpful. I would have loved to see that on a shop tour that I watched, or multiple shop tours that I watched. Take with that what you will. That said, I hope you had a good time hanging out with me today and taking a tour of the shop, and I hope to see you next time. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed.